the live sign comes. Okay. All right. Right. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the third free webinar of IRCBM International Research Conference on Business Management 2022, proudly hosted by Business School of SLTC Research University. By now, you know that IRCBM 2022 will be held in November 25th at SLTC City Campus, Trace City, Maradana. All right, switching back to our pre-webinar, we have with us today the three brilliant strategists of marketing, branding, and sales. And starting from Kavi Rajapaksha, Senior Vice President, Chief Marketing Officer of SoftLogic Live. How are you, madam? Sounds
Hi,
good?
Harsha. Very good, very good. Thank you so much for the invitation.
Okay, right. And we have Thimira Manamendra, Deputy General Manager, National Bank Assurance, Alliance Insurance, Lanka Limited. How are you, mate?
Good, Harsha. Happy to be here. Thanks for inviting.
All right. Okay. Good to go. Right. Finally, we have my dear friends. All these guys are my friends, but Gamika De Silva, Assistant General Manager, Sales and Marketing, Ceylon Bank PLC. How are you, sir?
Hi, Hassan. Good to see you, and thanks for the invitation. Looking forward for an exciting session.
Super, super. Great start. Okay, to discuss a very vital topic to our nation in the midst of adversity. Have you identified the modern target markets and consumer trends? What could SMEs do? A very, very vital topic right now at this point. Also, see, I'm trying to come from a different window. She holds a PhD in management that specializes in tourism from Management and Science University Malaysia, and a Master of Business Administration International Australia. Over 18 years of corporate experience. She is a corporate trainer and a certified coach and a mentor by International Institute of Coaching and Mentoring, that is IICM. She's currently a senior lecturer at SLTC Business School, lead office of mentoring and coaching of SLTC Research University. Winner of the prestigious Outstanding Woman Performer of the Year Award by Woman Icon, powered by Times Woman 2021. As I hand over the microphone to the vibrant Dr. Shamini Pereira for moderation. Over to you, madam.
Thank you so much, Hashan, Dr. Hashan. And thank you so much for that wonderful introduction that you've given. But first and foremost, am I audible?
Yes, doctor. Yeah.
Oh, right. So before I go ahead with the moderation, I believe I need to do justice by introducing these wonderful panelists who are present here with us today. They are experts in marketing and have handled many success stories in the industry. Kavi Rajapaksha, thank you so much for joining with us to SoftLogic Live. And Thimira, again, Deputy General Manager, Sales and Marketing, Ceylon Bank. things. And I'm very much privileged to have you three today to share your experiences, share your knowledge, and because you all have survived over the years in this very complex environment, developing marketing strategies, but not just developing strategies, but making it really happen for this country. So thank you so much for being here with us today. So to begin with, my first question on a very timely topic, which is about have you identified the hot target markets and consumer trends? Especially what should SMEs do? Why we focus mainly in our webinar on SMEs is because we today have understood how much Sri Lanka needs to develop the SMEs and how much we can add value to this economy and to support the country's survival as well as economic survival. And in order to do that, the marketing plays a major component. And how, from the point of view, like identifying the right product, identifying the right target markets, the consumer trends, are we updated about? So these are the questions that we are trying to answer today in our webinar. And we have Kavi Rajapaksha, who would be able to share a lot of knowledge with us in this forum. So Kavi, factors impacting health today are very diverse. It is not just anymore about only nutrition and the environment, but also involves a lot of physical activity, most of all, mental well being. Because we have been struggling over the past few years a lot with almost all the challenges that we are facing, starting from the pandemic, then could be the economic crisis and the recessions, all that. So, having understood these concerns, still understanding the consumer and their health behavior could definitely still help us to help our brands to capture the consumer demands. So please share with us about the changing consumer trends in maintaining a healthy lifestyle and the importance of understanding these changes in their behaviors, especially Softlogic Life as an organization which has become the second largest insurer in the market just in 5 years' time. So, Kavi, over to you to give us your insights.
Thank you, Dr. Shamini. Warm welcome to my fellow panelists and Dr. Hashan once again. Thanks a lot. Plus, I think we should all thank SLTC Business School for this wonderful opportunity. So I love the question. Like you said, Dr. Shamini, as a life insurer, we also kind of built the brand on mind, body, soul, and actually thought of fitness, wellness, nutrition. Those were the key pillars because as a life insurer, you need to be really talking about your customers' health and actually ensuring that they stay healthy, right? But things like having a breakfast, things like maintaining a work-life balance, all of these are unfortunately things of the past now. I mean, when you say the term health, it has evolved to a point where people really are talking about things that we, unless and otherwise we stay alert, we might actually be talking about things that they don't find any relevance to at all. Because, like you very rightly said, people are going through a lot. And even though Sri Lanka has its own unique state, the more important thing is when you look at global trends, also, Sri Lanka is not too far behind, right? So knowing these trends, I mean, they are also connected to the world is actually a good way because then whatever global research you have, like Deloitte and all that, is also quite relevant in identifying our customer trends today. Now, if I were to tell a bit about the new trends, right? Now, a lot of people talk about, mindfulness. Now, these are the key terms that we have all come to know these days. So, unless and otherwise you are a brand that wants to stay relevant to your consumers, if you don't talk about things like mindfulness, basically being in the moment, enjoying this moment, giving it all to this moment right now, right? And also going about things in that lively, more concerned at the moment type of way, right? That is now is the more recommended way of really living your life to the fullest, right? And things like, choosing your happiness. Are you aware of your happiness? How can you go about it? Now, maintaining a journal came a thing of the past. But now, again, specialists are they saying, whatever your thoughts, capture it. You want to scream on a journal. It doesn't have to be a written journal, but even if it's a an electronic journal, fine, because there has to be a safe space where you truly express. It can be your secrets, it can be your emotions, your frustrations. It has to be let out. And things like sleep. I mean, there came a time when people said, no, but great, amazing, successful people only slept 2 or 3 hours a day. But now they say, unless and otherwise you sleep your 6 hours, your brain is not going to function well, right? So, now when it comes to nutrition, I mean, everybody knows that you need to maintain your calorie count and all that. Now, those were the bus things that were happening some time back. But right now, people are thinking about eating right, but more than that, how to plan your meals, right? So that your discipline is maintained. How to train your body to expect meals at the right time, right? Are you happy about what you eat? Now, if you look at exercising trends, right? Earlier, you need to punish your body. I mean, there's no gain without pain, were the kind of things that we spoke about. Now, no, movement should be something you enjoy. Like, body movement should be an enjoyment which you actually use to really generate happy hormones, and you need to find things that make you happy, right? So my point is that versus earlier, right, where we really spoke about very detailed things, right, where we went into caloric values and green teas and all of that. Now things are different. If your audience is younger, you need to really pay attention to the buzzwords, which are things like this, right? Now we are going back. I mean, now how many hours a month do you really spend outdoors? I mean, those are the kind of things that young people are now more conscious of. So these health trends, unless and otherwise you identify, your content doesn't remain relevant. What you speak about, there's a massive gap between what your brand is talking about versus what your consumers are looking for. So I hope I've given a somewhat of an understanding in terms of the real changes in terms of healthy lifestyle, etc.
Yes, thank you so much, Kavi. I guess you really very well explained about the changing trends. And the key highlights were about mindfulness, happiness, capturing thoughts. Capturing thoughts, it does not have to just merely be a journal that you maintain, right? And then eating right. And it's all about how one would want to be happy and live healthy. So thank you so much for that insight. And let's next turn to Timira. Similar, safety and protection is now one of the main needs amongst the most consumers, rapidly changing ever since the pandemic period, I would say. So please share with us as to how the consumer value creation could be created considering safety and protection in particular in the current needs of consumers. Over to you, Timira.
Thank you very much, Dr. Shamini. And again, happy to be here, especially with my two friends. And a special thank to Dr. Hashan to connect us here. So I heard the questions, and it's a very interesting and timely question. So what I'm going to do is I'll break this question into 3 parts to answer, probably from my industry perspective. Let's see why this is an interesting and timely question, as I said. And the second part would be why safety and protection, or what safety and protection is all about. And last part would be the very interesting one, how to create a customer value around these emergent trends. If I go back to, just to give some sort of understanding, the question that you raised to me, why it's so interesting and timely question. So as a nation, now we are currently living in very turmoil and challenging situations. So I don't have to mention that. So due to high inflation, the price of commodities and service has gone up. So medical facilities and medicines, we know that is a key priority for any one of us, but unfortunately it's a scarcity now. Just imagine when it's come for main medical treatment, like probably surgeries. So there might be a very long waiting list or scarcity of medicine and probably the treatment equipment. that might push you to look for probably alternative treatment destinations like Singapore, India, USA. So what do you have a backup plan to do this? So what if something happened like this? Even if you go for overseas treatment, so definitely there's another challenge, which is the Forex challenge. Why I'm saying that? You have to pay all these bills in dollars. And let's take another point. So day in, day out, what we hear from news is all about theft, burglaries, injuries, or death. So how to recover if something happened to you, or if something happened to your property? Just imagine how your dependents will survive if there's a death. And I mentioned about the inflations. There's a good thing in hyperinflation scenario. So is it that your assets values are going up? So it can be your car, it can be probably your house, it can be your machineries, or it can be any other properties. But the question here is, what if something goes wrong? Just imagine if you have your vehicle, the high value vehicle, if it's met with an accident, or if you have a good house, what if it's catch fire? The question that I need to ask for myself then, do I have enough cash in hand probably to do the recoveries? So do I have to liquidate my FDs or any other assets to recover my losses? So therefore, it's a must requirement just to protect your assets. The question is, how are you going to do that? So that's why it says it's a very timely question. Probably the concept of insurance may help to find answers, rather solutions, those problems that I just mentioned. Let me now move into what safety and why safety and protection. I think the Kavi also mentioned this point. She was mentioning about the well-being. So feeling safe, stable, and secure is basically the fundamental to our well-being. So all of us, what we want is we really wanted to feel the state of inner safe. Feeling inner safe, what does it mean? So feeling that we are safe or not being harmed mentally or physically. So that is what for me, it's inner safe. So when we feel safe, we find it easier to reach peace of mind and focus on the presence. So this is exactly what our customers are searching for today, whatever they do, wherever they go. So therefore, insurance may be one way to ensure the peace of mind. Then the last part of the questions, how to create a customer value around these emerging needs. Apparently, these needs were anyway there. So people have been looking for safety, they were looking for protections in the past, probably not up to the scale. So I think, Dr. Shamini, you started saying the COVID experience also. So just imagine due to post and pre-COVID experience. So this the safety and protection has become a main concern for many people. So therefore, let's understand. So what does it mean to create value for customers? So it means providing useful product or probably useful service that customer consider worth of their time, energy, and money. So therefore, for customer to find a value in product or service, it perceive benefit, or we call it the perceived value. It has to be overweight in its cost. Then the question is how we can do this, or how we can create a value. So we call it the creating value propositions. So there are 5 steps probably we can look at. I'll just quickly go through. First, understanding, or basically understand before you engage. What I mean by that? Customer value creations can't start without understanding the need of your customer. So especially in this digital era. So therefore, map the customer journey throughout their life cycle. It's a must thing. This is where you can understand all the touch points. This is where you can understand all the pain point. And if you know the pain point, this is where you can come up, or you can basically tailor-make your value proposition to address that. Then second point would be establishing the connections. And this is a very important factor again. So creating a customer-centric service organization just to map and deliver contextual service based on specific demand for customers. I think this is relevant for myself as well as Kavi's industry, because we were coming from the insurance. Therefore, understand the specific demand is very much needed. Then the second point would be create true customer personas. So we all know generic, or rather traditional customer segmentation, it will just yield generic results and outcome for any organization. But therefore, creating value journey or customer persona will be the norm, especially for multinational like us. And also in that case, especially for banks, because I know how banks also doing this customer persona. matter. So therefore, good personas are a representation of your good customer. I think this is what we need to understand, probably as a managers, as a marketers, probably as a leaders. The good customer persona accurately reflects your target customer age, location, probably goals, their social behaviors, emotions. And therefore, it's always help us to shape in a better or contextualized product tailored to their requirement. So then there's another point that we can do, which is the applying intelligence in customer value creations. So optimize or contextualize customer engagement is no longer just a thought. We have seen this, but it's a reality, especially in this digital world. So therefore, using various tools will help us to understand customers' habit, so what exactly they do, and those kind of a thing, even we can predict. So therefore, using a custom intelligent platforms is very much important to create this customer value creations or create this value proposition. Then the other point what I can add is the presence in the digital world, because I know it's very important. So traditional method of digital distributions may be help, but it will not probably give the tractions that the today customer really is asking from us, because we know this digital ecosystem today is so complicated. So therefore, companies should look at a different element of digital marketing, probably just to connect with the customers on digitally, mobile, and social consumers. I'll just quickly explain one point which I really wanted to explain here, because we know there's a certain evaluation is currently happening in the markets. So we are currently at the e-commerce. So we all know what e-commerce is all about, but there's another emerging trend is called social commerce. Is our organizations are aware on the social commerce? Is our SMEs are aware on the social commerce? Social commerce is all about where customer explore product and complete transaction through social media and content creating platforms. Basically, we call it all the apps. So this emerging form of probably shopping, it removes friction from the buyer process and also create more engaging journey for the customers and present new opportunities, especially for brands and also for organizations to create customer interest. So the question is, are we ready for this? And the last point that I want to add here is, we need to focus on omnichannel strategies just to be responsive to customer across all the touch points. Because what we need to understand is, we are now basically addressing, or we are now focusing all these 5 generations in these markets, starting from baby boomers, and we have techies, then millennials, you call it the Gen Z, now currently is alpha. So are we ready to cater these segments? So therefore, creating value propositions based on the segments that you really want to approach is a really key for any organization, for any OEs, any SMEs. So therefore, I believe that I have given a sufficient answer to your question. Back to you.
Yes, of course, Timira, thank you so much. I guess there was a lot of knowledge shared in that particular answer that you shared. In simple, the key terms, if I could again recall, it's like how you can create value to your customers is, first of all, understand the customer needs and wants before the customer engages in your products and services. And establishing the connections are very, very important, especially in a digitalized world where we need to be very responsive and very quick in providing solutions to their needs as well, which is what I believe the SMEs could do a lot in today's context, whereas we have played, I mean, we are facing a lot of concerns, issues to which people are searching. It doesn't have to be always a larger market, but it could be a very niche market that we cater to as well. So thank you so much, Timira, for that wonderful answer. Let's now turn to Gamika. Gamika, hybrid views of purchasing or looking for convenience and being able to do things on their own are some of the modern customer trends as per Forbes Business Council. So what is your thought about how the financial institutions, banks can create value to their products and services in line with these trends? Over to you now. Gamika? Okay, I believe Gamika, we lost him for a few seconds. With the could be a technical issue. Let's till he joins back. Let's move on to the other, and maybe Gamika could join us soon. Okay.
Gavik is back.
Yes, he's here.
Back. Sorry, there was a
Yes,
technical
Gamika.
glitch,
No
and
problem.
I'm not sure whether I was audible at all. So first of all, thank you, Dr. Shamini, and thank you, SMEs, for this opportunity, and happy to share the platform with my two colleagues as well. Very important question, very timely. Let us approach this in this way. If you look at banking and financial institutions, how does self-convenient approach works? If you look at the trends right now, we see a massive trend. I think it's COVID which actually drove the digitization, expedited the digitization in the financial sector. Because there was a time that you cannot even access your ATM or the bank or do any transaction. So that actually gave a boost in terms of the digital adoption. Also gave the banks, actually this is a joke that we share within the industry, which actually triggered the digitization process in the bank. So some of the projects which were in the pipeline suddenly got expedited, and we had to come out with it with a faster pace. World over, if you look at it in terms of digital adaptation, consumers go for consumer centric behavioral change in terms of approaching banks. So most of the time, the retail banking actually does not happen in the bank itself. But come to Sri Lanka, our digital adoption is quite slow and low. But happy to say, in terms of the year-on-year growth, if you look at it, e-commerce transaction during 2021 Q1 to 2022 Q2, it has grown by 46%. Internet banking usage in terms of value from Q1 2021 to Q2 2022 has grown by 121%. So you see the adoption is rapidly picking up. So I think this is the movement, but understanding the Sri Lankan consumer, we still love to have that human interaction at whatever point. I mean, going to the bank, doing the banking transaction itself is an experience. So there is a segment who walks into your bank, whether you like it or not. I mean, that's how the behavior is. So we need to look at both sides of the coin. So how does banks actually adapt, or banking and financial institutions adapt into this situation is basically our thinking is, across the industry, the consumer-centric thinking has started evolving, and it's happening, and different levels and different pace of adoption is happening all over the place. So in terms of products and services, the value addition happens from more convenience point of view, the user experience, the user journey point of view. The whole value chain has to be evaluated from the perspective of customer centricity, as well as bringing the digital adoption into consideration. Secondly, in terms of the real product itself, because banking is a industry which is regulated, so certain decisions has to be taken in line with the central bank the governing body and the boundaries, etc. So I think I'm happy to say that eKYC is we are supposed to do a KYC of the customer. The eKYC is coming to play, and this actually opens up the boundary in the banking and finance sector, because the buzzword is about fintech. And today, if you ask me who's our biggest competitor, I wouldn't say it's a bank. It'll be the telco who's entering the banking industry. So this is how the paradigm shift is happening, and your competitive landscape is changing. So from using biometrics for logging, eKYC coming into play, virtual account operation, and if you look at the trends in the world, even social media integration for balance transfers to fund transfers, etc., is happening all over the place. So actually this the rules of the game is changing. I think at the center of thinking being the customer, the value additions, the banking products, if you look at it's a lending or a deposit product, the core of the product will remain same, but the experience, the user journey has been changed with the digital transformation coming in and more empowered customer being there. And also this has allowed certain integrations to happen for aggregators, so that you can, I'm sure it's happening in the insurance industry also. You can compare and contrast what you're getting into. So no longer that you will be the only bank that the customer will stick into. He'll have so many options, go online, search log in by yourself and particularly do it yourself in terms of applying for a loan, for a card, or opening an account. So this is the paradigm shift. I think it's happening at a rapid pace, but in terms of the country, we are adapting slowly, but I think in a very decent pace. We have a good regulatory framework and visionary leadership in the right places to give the right direction, so that the banking and financial industry can pick up these digitization changes and move forward along with the how the world is moving.
Yes, thank you so much, Gamika. I guess you shared a lot of insight there. And being in telco, I'm sure you would understand more like how telco could be a competitor, as you very well explained. So apart from that, yes, as you said, the convenience becomes a key component, and now SMEs also have to think about the services that they have in offer to make it how convenient to their consumers, because no more the traditional banking systems or the financial systems are there, whereas our consumers are looking for convenience, and the products and services that we need to produce should also meet that requirement. So thank you once again for those wonderful insights. So let's turn back again to Kavi. Kavi, acceptance and self-care and inclusion are the forefront of customer lifestyles today. Self-love seekers prioritizing their happiness. I think you touched this even before in your discussion. But most travelers, women entrepreneurs, and being professionals, women being professionals, and feeling comfortable or want to feel comfortable in their own self in purchasing goods and services that meets their needs has become a modern trend as well. So please explain to us how the businesses in SME can produce products that help consumers feel fulfilled, especially the capturing the market of women, the target market of women. Over to you, Kavi.
I think, Dr. Shamini, I would like to approach this question in a slightly different manner. Yes, in Sri Lanka, 25% of households are led by women. And women do now, there's more than 35% of women participating in the workforce. And you and I are also here in this forum leading for our part of the gender. But what I feel is that leadership or any sort of work shouldn't be defined by gender, and what we should be looking at are more broader, a more universal kind of insights so as to how to target your customers, right? So I would like to touch upon things that are more centric, because the topic is also to help SMEs to be more relevant in what they do. But I would in the end kind of talk about how it can be maybe fine-tuned more if your target audience is indeed a woman. Whether you're the second largest life insurer, or if you're just starting to kind of bake for your family and friends as a business, what's important is that you stay up to date, right, in terms of what your consumers want. And for that, for an SME, very simple things first, right? Your social media. Nowadays, you cannot be an SME without social media. What's more important is you need to have your personal social media to a very confined group of friends and family and well wishers, and you need to have a business page. And you need to basically have, if it's Twitter, Instagram, whatever resonates better with your target audience, you need to have that, and you need to actually daily update the feeds that you actually get the daily trends. And if you can't read it that day, you need to have like a small app like Pocket where you save it for later, right? These are very important things. The not to do is to have the same profile for both your personal and professional things, right? And secondly, if you are an organization of even a small team, your age, your exposure, what you bring to the table are very different from employee to employee. As an SME starting out, it's very important to trust your employees to bring you insights, right? And irrespective of what your target audience is, you need to establish a way where consumer intelligence comes to you through your employees. Very important, right? And simple things like SEO, like Google AdWords. These are must learn things. Now, when you spoke about self esteem and self growth, one of the newest skills that people say is to push yourself out of your comfort zone, where you learn something new, right? So your learn something new needs to be on the new ways of marketing on digital, because that's the future of marketing, right? And also, uh, magazines, journal subscriptions seems to be a thing of the past, but they have really upped their game. Now you have really good online things that you can really subscribe to, most of the time free of charge. Very good things that you need to really pay attention to. And if you go a little further, if you can, the one of the biggest things people don't do is ask an unsatisfied customer, what could we have done better, right? So you'll get a lot of customer feedback. You love it when it's good, but if you really go and really see what has not worked for you, you can really identify some nuggets which can really help you to stay at the top of your game, right? But because we will have SMEs who will also join today, I would like to leave some thoughts behind in terms of the newest things that we at Suffragette Life are also looking at, because customers have really upped their game, right? Now, from a point of transparency, we are in Sri Lanka. I don't have to tell you why. There is a huge demand for whatever business to really disclose how transparent you are. At the same time, customers want to keep their data as anonymous as possible. This is a fine balance. Any business, no matter how big or small you are, you need to understand. And thanks to COVID, like Gamika said, everybody is going online. Buying online is now the biggest thing. But customers also want to see a cohesive kind of framework where when you switch from digital to physical to phygital, there has to be seamless transformation. Even if you're a small business, they expect this from you. It's not that, you know, now only large organizations are supposed to deliver this. If you're doing a business, customers expect that, right? And also, one of the other things is now things are getting more and more expensive, right? So customers now will most probably going forward at a very rapid rate, tend to look at DIY, do it yourself means of doing things, right? So in terms of content marketing, in terms of staying relevant, if you can really steer your business towards helping customers manage their costs by enabling them, giving them education about how to do it yourself, these are definitely going to be things that will really keep your brand relevant, right? And when you look at, if you're a slightly bigger SME, now there's AI, there's robotic process animation and automation, things like that, where certain decisions you empower systems to take. So if you can get it to automated decisions, where like if it's paper towels, paper serviettes, or whatever your organization needs, that basically needs to be just ordered as and when things are over. SMEs need to really facilitate those things where you have a continuous set of orders and revenue that come through systemized ordering, right? Very important. A lot of things people don't really pay attention to. And now, because of the situation in terms of the financial issues that we will definitely face going forward, vendor vetting. If you're SME, you will need to get vetted, ideally by some of your good customers who are able to speak on behalf of you if somebody needs you to be vetted, right? And especially going forward, people are going to use value based buying. They're going to prioritize what they need. So you need to ensure whatever you're selling remains relevant, because according to Forbes, one of the biggest reasons why organizations fail is because your product doesn't remain relevant, right? And also because you don't trust your employees to also tell you how to up your game. You try to micromanage, especially in the means of a case of SMEs, right? So because you were talking about females, now going forward, you know how females are very good at financial management. Now husbands will start turning towards the wife to actually manage the house economies better, because females have that intuition. They prioritize the kids and all of that. This is not me saying it because I'm a female. It's in research, right? So females now going forward will play a bigger role in how the economy condition of the house when the money comes to your hand will be managed. So the order of priority for your target audience is something that SMEs need to understand, and the female pester factor, whether she's a breadwinner or whether she's at home, that is going to play a massive role. And maybe going forward, having content that really caters both to female and male breadwinners, as well as having content where I took this question at a broader stages also, when you try and target gender, the chances of really offending someone is very high because people have very diverse views. I think the best thing I can recommend is to keep it as gender neutral and politically correct as much as possible by using more generalistic insights like this versus just trying to talk to the feminine or the masculine aspects of the population. So I hope I have answered your question. The essence is that you need to establish means of being actually updated. There are very, very, very simplistic ways of doing that, and you need to know what and how things will change going, especially into the next 6 to 12 months. I tried to give you some a basis of what we think are going to happen. This is also vetted by Deloitte and Forbes, where actually, like I said, the global trends are not so far apart from Sri Lankan trends. But I hope our SMEs will pay attention because adaptation is going to be the name of the game.
Yes, thank you so much, Ravi. I guess again you explained it very well, and why today the transparency needs to be highly maintained in terms of running a business. And I think you touched another very important point, which is much relevant to the, I would say, the SMEs. Who comes with a very purely entrepreneurial mindset, trusting your employees, which is about basically internal marketing. Today, your customers wants to know how well you treat your employees, how much the customer's expectations successful. So thank you so much for that wonderful insight, Ravi. So let's again turn to Timara. According to research by IBM, 77% of consumers today consider sustainability, and a Harvard Business School also reports that sustainable products have average sales growth compared to those that may be marketed as not sustainable or which is not communicated as sustainable as well. So, Timara, how can SMEs be innovative to offer such sustainable products by capturing opportunities in the market? Over to you, Timara.
So thanks, Dr. Shamini, once again. So it's looked like a very simple questions, but the content of that question itself is a very tough and sophisticated. So therefore, allow me to rephrase these questions in this way. So what's worth more, the present or the future? I think that is what this question is all about. So this paradoxical question is top of mind for many consumers and businesses in the current era of climate change and its given thing. So as extreme environmental events become even more and more common, people are carefully analyzing and evaluating short-term expectation, probably such as the convenience and cost efficiency, against the factual need to preserve the planet for the future generation. So that is where now probably the world, that is where all these things is heading now. So therefore, there is a general perception that may consider probably the climate change is a major threat to society. So this debate was predominantly strong, especially in Europe and China. So if I can remember correctly, if you take China, 3 people out of 4. So, and also this was probably mentioned in World Economic Forum report sometime back, probably 2001, 2002, because the thought process is coming from that level itself. So what has happened after recent COVID pandemic to hold these propositions or hold this the thought process? So it has pushed consumers past a tipping point just to understand how the unexpected event impacted general perception of sustainability and social responsibility. So, Doctor, the SAID report revealed that the pandemic significantly shifted people's perspective on environmental sustainability. So then what does this mean to business? This is why it's important for us. So there is the underpinning the message here is there is another mega trend is happening in the market with consumers' expectations toward their intended purchase behavior of commodities. So is the business, or especially the SMEs, are competent or are skilled enough to understand this? So is this a challenge for business? That's the question that we need to ask. If so, what's the solution then? I hope we all learn in our marketing classes. There's a model. We call it the 3Ps model. Gamma, I think you can remember that. The people, planet, profits. I think this is where we are again going back. So if you are doing a business centered around people, planet, profits. So this whole thinking comes into play. So therefore, consumers are learning about the world problem and evolving their perspectives. So what more? So these discussions are continuing, or these conversations are continuing at their homes also. So therefore, in short, empathy is going viral. So this is the message that I wanted to basically give it up. Empathy is going viral. So consumers want to support companies that align with their values. That's the key thing that any organization, especially SMEs, need to understand. And more importantly, they are willing to pay for the privilege, or they are willing to pay premium price if the organization source aligned to their own this value system. Therefore, companies to acting on sustainable strategies early will put any business in a better position to gain long-term consumer loyalty and trust. So this is what we call it the building brand equity. So this will be another piece for you to have a strong brand equity. So how can SMEs to be innovative is the next question that we need to answer. Probably in my view, they need to rethink the shopping cart from the customer's perspective or the consumer's perspective. So we know that sustainability is usually seen as a luxury good, or it's some sort of a elevated status. So we know eco-friendly products, growing food organically, but I'm not going to go back and explain what has happened to us a few months back in terms of the organically national level, but this is from a business perspective, and also the use in recycled materials. So therefore, for many consumers, saying yes to environmental friendly product means saying no to something else. This is what we need to understand. This is what the SMEs need to understand. They need to identify that trigger point. Having said that, what we have seen in the past, when organizations forced to make a trade-off between affordability versus sustainability, we have seen customers have historically prioritized their pockets, basically how much in your pockets. But this mindset is shifting, especially if you take the Gen Z. So these generations are more conscious about what is happening around them. They are more conscious about the ethical practices. They are more conscious about what they can give it to the society. So therefore, how SMEs can innovatively do things around this is probably in my perspective, as I earlier said, you need to identify their TG, or you need to identify their target segment. Then put in premium on sustainability. What does that mean? So putting premium on sustainability means you can differentiate your product. You can differentiate your space where you're competing in the markets. So that is where you can probably get fast, get the first move advantage, set the trend, then rest will follow you. Then there's another key things any SME can do. Probably this is tough for probably organization that at the greater level, but for SMEs can do this, which is purpose-driven employment. So money isn't everything now, especially for this Gen Z segment. So you can attract talent, and you can use this as in your marketing communications, where you can communicate this to your target group. This is where you can get the customer engagement towards what you exactly do from the good intention. I think if we can basically segregate that, if we can create that value proposition, around what you are doing in terms of these ethical practices and good thing for the society, this is where you can have the competitive edge. I think that's what I believe. I hope I have answered that question.
Yes, very well, Timara. Thank you very much for that wonderful answer. I believe you highlighted one of the most important facts about why we need to be responsible marketers, where we can contribute to the sustainability, not just of the business, but also to the society and the environment, most importantly. So let's now look at what Gamika has to tell us about the diverse markets. Now, there are many diverse markets that are growing in the environment, which relates to the behavioral changes, such as the LGBTQ market could be changing roles in women behavior, maybe automation and digitalization, which we all spoke of already. But Gamika, so please explain to us the qualities and ethics the marketers should follow and be innovative to serve these expectations of diverse markets, because it's not everyone wants the same way. There is no gender limitation anymore, as Kavi mentioned as well. So how could we respect these differences as ethical marketers? Over to you, Gamika.
Thank you, Dr. Shamni. Very appropriate question with regard to changing market dynamics. For me, marketing is a discipline which was built on economic principles, and marketing is a social science which keeps evolving. So, with the change of time, with the change of consumer behavior, with the change of markets, your thinking and your approach should change, and it has to be fluid. I mean, we as marketers, I'm sure Timira and Kavi will also appreciate that, we keep challenging our old models, and we keep challenging, we keep debating, and the models are evolving to the current scenario. I mean, for instance, no longer you can be thinking about product, price, place, promotion. You need to look at value proposition. You need to look at, value for money. You need to look at your products and services being available anywhere, anytime, with the current dynamics. And, you cannot think of campaigns, rather you think about conversations with your consumer. So with this, whole changes happening, the qualities that the marketers should embrace and be ready and be mindful about is, number one, you should be, you should have an open mind. There's open mindedness, ready to change, ready to adapt, because your past successes will not probably guarantee your future survival. So you need to be embracing change. You need to be ready to challenge your thinking as well. Question whether is that the right way? Is there a better way to do it? And embrace the changes which are happening. Secondly, you need to understand the ground reality. I mean, research is a good tool to have. As all marketers, that we practice research, but my message here is, research is not the guiding light, or it's not a pillar to lean on. Research will give you a sort of a vision, where as marketers you bring your experience, you get your gut feel, most importantly, to decide in which direction to take. Because research can, you can interpret research in different ways, but if you can understand the fundamental changes, sentiments, it will give you a better perspective. And more often than not, for me, in my last 2 decades of marketing career, my gut feel has worked better more than the statistics. But on the other side, all the marketers, I think something that we forget, we need to be, close to the ground level. I mean, your best research will happen at the Sunday Polar. If you walk in, you observe how customers walk into your outlet or supermarket. I remember as a management trainee at one of the supermarkets, my first assignment was to, from the first floor, I need to observe how the customers walk into the supermarket and how they walk through the aisles, and to decide, in terms of your merchandise, your displays, how it needs to be arranged. So these are some, reality checks that a marketer can take, and you need to understand your consumers, how they think, how they behave. I always take an opportunity to create a conversation with a three-wheeler driver or anybody who I meet on the road. Sometimes, you get fantastic insights which research will not be able to give you. So you need to be down to earth. I mean, on the other side, your front end workforce, it can be your counter staff, or it can be your sales force, can also be a very good source of giving you information. Thirdly, your voice of customer, the abundance of calls that comes to your call center, the comments that comes into your social media will give you the paradigm shift, how the thinking is changing. I mean, it's amazing to see how the younger audiences perceive things, and it's not the way you and I will probably interpret. And I also make it a point that I associate, relatively, I mean, a younger audiences, even in the team or outside in some interaction, so that I get stimulated, I get their thinking. I mean, if we look at A, B, and C as brand ambassadors or models that they look forward for, but it's very, very different in terms of their work. So you need to understand, embrace that changes in terms of the attention spans and evolving roles of genders, and all that has to be there. And then thirdly, be true to yourself. I mean, whatever that you do, I mean, being ethical, it's a very thin line. You can, question about the ethics and whether it's ethical or unethical. But as long as you're true to yourself, true to the brand that you work, that you can always hold your head high and think that you have done the best you can. Kavi and Timira will always, I mean, I'm sure that they will endorse as well. We as brand marketers, we live and breathe the brand. You being always true to the brand, and if you can be true to yourself and true to the brand that you work, I think that will bring you that right essence in terms of doing the right thing. Finally, you need to take risks. You need to take calculated risks. I mean, if you are to do the same thing that you have done last year or years before, that might not guarantee you the same result. Irrespective that your effort has been successful previously, your dynamics have been changed. So I always educate and ask my team also to challenge the assumptions that you make in particular decisions. Whether that previous decision was very successful, your variables would have changed by now. So consumer sentiments would have changed, your pain points would have changed. So keep challenging yourself, take calculated risk. If you don't do anything different, you get the same answer. So I mean, the world is evolving, your consumers are evolving. If you are not ready to evolve with them, you'll be in the corporate museum no later than that. So that's my answer.
That we need to evolve. Our personal beliefs, our personal thoughts may be different, but when we cater to different market segments, we should be humble enough to realize their expectations, needs, and wants rather than isolating from them. So, thank you so much for that wonderful answer. And we have almost come to the end of the program. We are running out of time as well, but before we end the program, I still would like to have one concluding remark from all three panelists. Simply, what is your main advice to the SMEs in selecting their right marketing choices? To begin with, Kavi, what is your advice to the SMEs?
I think it'll be a rearticulation of what Gamika, Timina, and I said. Um, as fast as the environment is changing, your consumers and your business problems are going to change. So if I were to limit it to one advice, adapt fast. Keep your ear to the ground, like all of us have been saying. Be through your own customers, be through research, using your employees, whichever way. Keep an ear to the ground, stay updated, and adapt if you can. Predict whatever these trends. Adapt is the best advice I can give.
Okay, I think so. Kavi said the correct things. So fast is the game of anything now. So I have to say something else now. So my advice for SMEs, if you are SME, so if you want to really getting into a space and develop the business there, first understand your customers. So that is a critical thing. So once you do that part, there's another thing you need to do. You have to draw your customer journey. It's a mean end journey from start to end. You need to draw the customer journey. They need to understand all the touch points and you need to understand all the pain points. If you fail to do that, you will never come up with the exact value proposition that you are looking for your business. So if you wanted to have the correct value proposition created for your segment that you really wanted to do this as a habit, do this as a practice. As Gamika said, this is what always I'm challenging. So when you draw your customer journey, there are many ways that you can challenge your own assumption, as Gamika correctly said. I think this is my advice for all the SMEs also.
Thank you so much, Timira. Gamika?
Yeah. So my advice is, operate with a purpose. Have a purpose for your business, have a purpose for yourself. As long as you're true to your purpose, you can't go wrong. Despite any challenge comes in, um, steer back into, understand why did you start this? What's the purpose of this business? So that's probably is my main advice. So within that, irrespective, I know the times are challenging. It's easily said than done, but on the ground reality, it's really challenging. So in that, if you stick to your core values within your purpose and prioritize, sometimes you have to probably take a step back strategically to mitigate certain challenges. You might have to take that, but bounce back. As long as you know your purpose, you will always bounce back and make it a success.
Thank you so much. So in simple, adapt, understand your consumer, and then have your purpose clear so that you keep bouncing back to where you want to be. So once again, thank you so much for those wonderful insights. And as we said at the very beginning, these are our pre-conference webinars, which leads to the main conference, which is to be held on the 25th of November. And at SLTC Research University, especially at SLTC Business School, we believe that we need to work together with the industry in creating more value to our students, as well as the students who will be joining the industry both locally and internationally, with the education that they receive here at SLTC. So this is the purpose why we always walk together with the industry, both locally and internationally, to add more and more value in the education that we deliver at SLTC Business School. So thank you all our three panelists for your wonderful time and insight given to us, to our audience. And we hope to see you all at our SLTC Business School Research Conference, which is to be held on the 25th of November. Join us for more insight, knowledge, most of all, it will be more practically applied knowledge that will be shared through the research that we do. So have a very pleasant evening. Take care of yourselves. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.